Hey, welcome back to an exciting week of YOML, a year of magical learning. Today, we're actually trying to wrap up the one of our favorite book by Jonathan Haidt, The Conclusions of the Righteous Mind. And today is part 202, reflection 148. So take it over, Chris.
Yeah, so exciting, dramatic conclusion to
Yes.
reflection two of the righteous mind. Why good people are divided by politics and religion. Snow, have you read this one?
No, but I love Jonathan Haidt though.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, no, he's one of the favorite authors for sure. So yeah. I would highly recommend this one. We already kind of did a recap of the book in the previous reflection, but just a quick reminder of what this book's about. Jonathan Haidt explores basically the genesis of like morality and why we do what we do for the most part, and why people in different cultures do different things and how they combat with each other, and how a lot of the human history, how we got to where we got to with group mentalities and group thought and stuff like that. So it was a really, really good book. I mean, I really enjoyed it, learned a ton, which is why we did multiple reflections on this one. So
he only wrote one book about it, but you just did two reflections on it.
Yeah, about halfway through the year of magical learning, the reflections originally started out with one book, one reflection was the rule, except for my top 5 favorites. I was going to do like a 5-part reflection just because I had a lot of different things I learned and I wanted to share and have applied to my life. About halfway through, I said, fuck it, this is my journey. I said, you know what, like some of these books, like I just learned too damn much from it, and I want to share another reflection or 2 or 3 or whatever it may be. So at a certain point in time, about halfway through, I gave myself permission to, if I had other things that these things inspired and thoughts that I wanted to share, I just kept rocking and rolling. So this one was a 2-part reflection that I just really liked this book. It was good. So today's reflection title is 90% chimp, 10% bee. The single biggest thing that I learned from this book by far that I will never forget is 90% chimp, 10% bee. And what do I mean by that? So Jonathan Haidt said in this book, as he puts it, humans are 90% chimpanzee and 10% bee. And the reason why he says this is obviously we're very much so related to monkeys, right? So, but he mentioned, it's inconceivable. This was a quote that I wrote down on this one that just, I love. He was like, it's inconceivable to ever see one chimp helping another chimp to carry a log. It just will never happen. Like individual chimps are super individualistic. They will never work together. They will never help each other to complete a task or an activity. Now they're super creative and brilliant, but like they will never work together. Like it's like a hard, fast rule. Like they just won't do it. Now you flip it to the other side where you got bees, right? Bees are like the ultimate altruistic being. It's one for all for one. It's all about the hive. They will literally sacrifice their life for the greater good of the hive. The chimps, you got super individualistic. You got bees that are super altruistic, right? So where he's saying is humans are unique because we are sure both. We aren't super groupish and aren't super selfish. We have an ability to be groupish when we want to be groupish, and we have an ability to obviously be selfish and be a creator when we want to be selfish and be a creator. So my reflection of this, what it spurred on, is this has a lot to do with Cloy, in my personal opinion. So I wanted to take this principle, and True and I have taken this principle and how we've been designing out Cloy in general, right? So like obviously businesses have always known for the longest period of time, in clubs and social circles and things like that, like having a collective hive is really, really important, and having in that collective hive shared values to guide that hive has been incredibly important. Like think about the Catholic Church, or think about religions, or big businesses, whatever, right? Like those guiding values and mission like is what that hive, the super organism of the hive, is, right? Well, unfortunately, like in all those hives, the way that we operate these super organisms that we create, it's very top down driven. It's very everybody follow along, get in line, and it's kind of more bee-like, right? But we all know that we're still 90% chimpanzee. So unfortunately, the individual creative self gets really lost in a lot of these super organisms. So therefore, the idea of Cloy is to still have an infrastructure of that shared hive, because we need that, right? Like we're still 10% bee, and we want to have that shared safety and infrastructure and values of the group. But at the same time, we're going to flip it around by making sure that our individual chimpanzee can shine in that ecosystem. So it'll be the chimps being able to be let loose and, kind of like a Montessori workplace where like do whatever the hell you want to do, abide by the shared norms and values, but like just create what you want to create. And if you happen in that environment to find another chimp that likes the same chip that you like to do, then create together and start to collaborate. So it'll be like a lot of little mini hives within the bigger hive, right? I guess.
I think you're doing a great job explaining it.
Yeah. So basically that's Cloy in a nutshell, right? We want to have this large superorganism that is all driven by values, but then give these chimps, so satisfy our bee, and then give our chimps the ability to be a chimp and then connect with other chimps and form little mini hives in there. So anyway, That was what the principle of 90% chimp and 10% bee made me think of. And that's clubbing in a nutshell. The question, I know True and I still have a lot of work to do to make this a reality. But yeah, the question that spurred was, do you have, somewhere that you can express both your inner bee and your chimp at the same time? And if not, come on down to clubbing, right? So I'd love to get your guys' thoughts.
Just to throw a ratio to things like, 90 and 10%. Sure, it's not 89 and 11%, but right. I really like this concept because I think about how many hands do make light work, but we also always, at least I find myself, I always really love my individualism or being able to put my stamp in an organization, or it can be frustrating in my organization. I don't just have the green light to here's some supplies I need for schools to teach this concept in math class. I can't just go ahead and buy them. It's I got to go through a process and get approved and yada, yada. And by then it's well, fuck, now it's just too much work. I'm just not going to do it.
Exactly.
So I think it is funny just to think, we are like chimpanzees in terms of just wanting to be individuals. And it's interesting too, because I've just been thinking more and more how everything that we evolved, because the human species has been evolved over millions of years. So most things that we evolved, were somehow helpful to our species, so being this combination of, sort of bee-like, sort of chimp-like was always good. And it makes me think of the book right now, I'm reading right now, it's called Brainstorm. And it's about adolescence. And also how adolescents, it's really good for them. They go through this period, kind of rejecting their elders.
Right.
And it's been actually good though for kind of this genetic variation because younger people left the home. And I mean, we still have kind of that classic example today. We're I graduate high school, leave home, get out of here, go
be a chimp, go create,
go be a chimp, go be a horny chimp. These are the best years you're gonna look in your life. Go explore. So I think it seems like it makes sense, and I think I like the fact clubbing is people are gonna be happiness when they can express themselves, and they can feel safe. And, there's people who decide to go out, live in the woods completely by themselves and, not be part of the beehive. And
that sucks.
That can kind of suck in a way. Yeah, sure, you're completely autonomous, but some people just they can't find that balance though, maybe between being a bee and being a chimp. Is it, you're either all one and you're miserable, and you're also all the other and you're miserable,
Right.
And
for
so,
sure.
And I think then though, people can find, especially in political situations, their beehive that they love to swarm with, whether it's the political right or QAnon on the left or, or whoever. Because I think it's, I'm sure he talks about in this book, that we are very tribal species. We love to have a common enemy, and we love to, we love it when people kind of mimic us, and we love similarities. We love our differences, because I think it's interesting. Obviously, we're able to speak the same language. It's great. I love it.
Right.
But it's I don't want to have the same thoughts as Trio or Chris. I don't want you guys to say the same thing that I say, because God, it'd be boring shit.
Yeah. Right. Totally.
Yeah. So it's I want people to be chimps around me too. I don't know.
But you want to be in a shared hive though. You want to feel safe and supported and secure and financially secure and have your needs met. And be able to create together when you want to create together, but only when you want to create together.
Be in a beehive, but I want everyone to be a chimp in the beehive,
For sure. What do you got?
So should we call ourselves Chimpanzee?
Chimpanzee. That's funny.
Wow, that's great.
So the thing that comes across my mind is why 90% and why 10%? I know Aaron Snow touch on this, but what's the magic ratio? I mean, is there a reason why it's 90 and 10%?
Yeah, because we're definitely
right. That's what I'm asking. What?
Yeah, I mean, we have an innate desire to create. We are composers, right? If fungi is the decomposers of the world, human beings are the composers. We just compile shit together and create new stuff, right? We have this innate desire to want to create and to build new things and to express ourselves individualistically. That is way more powerful than our desire to want to be, like Sano said, the same person around you. I mean, by far, I feel that. So therefore, the spectrum automatically will lean more toward the chimp. But we all do have this small inkling inside of us that's I want to be around people that I like too, and to be a part of a shared community. I don't have to be, but I do.
I think this is where I actually don't want to create by myself. I just don't.
That's why we
And
have.
so that's what I'm saying is, even if I can take the 90%, I still won't be happy. I don't know why, but I'm not happy if I create. That's like I asked you before,
right.
if you were to be able to create something great and make $1 trillion, but you can't tell anyone. That question I posed many, many times, and you say, yeah, whatever. I want to make six figure. If I can't tell anyone, would it matter to me? It doesn't matter to me. If I make $1 trillion and I can't tell anyone, it doesn't matter to me. So for whatever reason, I think that the 10% B, it's innate in my nature somehow. And I don't know if I can even live without the 10%. That's why I'm saying 10%, it's kind of small. And the reason why I'm asking that is I want to know, what do you think would be the current ratio that we are today as society in the modern day, right now? What is our current chimpanzee to bee ratio?
I think it's damn near the other way around. Probably like 80% B. It depends on the organization you're in, right? Like I feel like Snow was talking about at school. I feel like, most of the organizations that we have in our modern day, like a corporation or a religion or school or whatever it may be, I feel like it's very much so 80% B and 10% or 20% chimp or something like that. You just don't get to express yourself.
It's to be 50-50 to be, because like I said, I'm not sure where the numbers come from, and I don't have any answer for that. I'm just asking the questions kind of through my head. Okay, what is the magical number for me to achieve this? I want to contribute, but at the same time, I want to be a creator. I want to be a composer. I want to work on things together, because we know what clubbing is about. It's clubbing, in the way that I see it, is to find people who knows what they want to compose and get other people to get together, compose the same thing, the common thing that we all want to compose. Because to me, look like 10% is so small that it's become insignificant in that formula. But I think it's cannot be omitted.
Right. I actually think 10% is a big chunk. So like, I'll give you an example of this Year of Magical Learning project for me, right? I spend on a weekly basis writing this stuff. So let's just say an hour a day, probably about an hour and a half a day, either reading or listening to an audiobook or something like that. So I compile all that up, and then you and I spend an hour a day, 4 days a week talking about it. I would say on the total amount of hours put into this, like I'm fulfilling a lot of my own needs. And it's probably like 70-30, I guess, in terms of.
But I don't think that's the way math works. You are enjoying the fact that you get able to project yourself into the future and saying, maybe I'm writing today and I want to talk to True about this. You can't wait to tell me about it. This is part of the individual creativity that you have at that moment, but you did it because you want to share. You did it because you want to have that feedback. You're looking forward to that moment. And so it's not just I can do 90% of all the chimpanzee, I don't think it's isolated. And that's why I'm kind of struggling to understand this split, because I don't think it's a split at all. I think it's a mesh between the two. And I'm trying to figure out what is that magical number, and is that even make sense to have? I mean, I do understand the kind of like the best of both, traits, but I don't know. I mean, for me, like I said, I don't want to create by myself. And if I want to create with other, I don't want to create things that I want. And so to me, it's still a fuzzy split in my head. And I'm trying to kind of like convince myself what's more reasonable in that regard.
Well, I think you're right. We definitely create for each other. Like, it's irrelevant to create something for yourself. I mean, it's
right,
cool,
because if I were to create, if I'm the best swordsmith in the whole entire world, in entire history, I would not be able to leave this world without building a best sword for the best swordsman. I can, even if I create a best swordsman, it won't be enough. I have to find this best swordsman so that he can use the creation I have, because it got to go together. So that, to me, the collectiveness that is innate within us is very strong. It's in the subconscious, is in the elephant. And we want to have that kind of connection. That's why it's important to have this meaningful relationship. It's meaningful work cannot exist without meaningful relationship. I just don't think that's possible.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Snow, what do you think?
I think I agree, since we always feel better doing something for something outside of ourselves. But I think people are different though. Like there's some people who maybe we're all like on a spectrum of whether like, hey, we like to be 20%, be 80% chimp, you know. So I think the idea is right. I think it depends on a person, their fulfillment, but I don't know. I guess you just have to look at the way that societies have come up or whatever. And that's what this guy did, kind of like looked at trends or other organizations and churches or states, and I don't know. And because I think everyone is always trying to strive for that, whether they're creating the bee community, you know, or they are just in the community. Because some people just don't have really much of a chance to get out of that, you know, they're just stuck in it. So,
which sucks.
I mean, we're talking about being like Gigi, right? I mean, Gigi is like she's involved in her community, she's involved in the church, right? Same thing with your granny, right? She goes, she's a family-oriented person. Like these are people who are very confident in themselves, they know their purpose. And because of this community, that gives them those kind of
it elevates their purpose.
Power.
Like, they get elevated.
So for me, is that yes, to me, it's meaningful relationship, then meaningful work, but then at the same time, we have this. So the thing is, I can't figure it out because it doesn't sound logical, but it should be like bee first before chimpanzee.
No way. No way. No, you got to connect on what you're doing. Like, I mean, you can't just connect on values because values are just words. Like,
that's what I'm saying. It doesn't sound logical, but like I said, you won't have meaningful work unless you have meaningful relationship. And that's why
meaningful relationships enhance your meaningful work.
I guarantee you. And I answer me the question then. If you are able to build something and you make $1 trillion and you found a fountain of youth or whatever it is, but you can't tell anyone, how will you feel?
I would still feel fulfilled.
I agree with that.
I've started. Would you start a project without having somebody else to do it with you, no matter what?
Without
a doubt.
I don't know, but it also just makes me think about like, what's the point of this conversation?
Just to have a fun conversation with your friends.
Are we trying to distill down like what makes?
We want to know.
Are we trying to get to an answer? I mean, I guess that's like I talked about in that one book I read, like a meeting or any conversation sometimes is about getting a consensus, you know?
No, I mean, this whole entire journey.
For me, it is. I'm trying to figure out what is the consensus. The discussion is about what's your opinion? I can leverage your opinion to understand this a bit more. This is why I'm asking the question because I don't have to answer myself, right? That's why we say, what's your opinion on this? What do you think about it? To get to the point at the end of the discussion is to get more closer to a consensus. Okay, I think we are maybe 90, not 90, but 85% chimpanzee and 15% bee, whatever that number is. I don't know. But we still want to know.
I think it can also be a way, though, like whether you say, aha, this is what it is, then it gives you more insight whether to construct something that tailors to the way people are. Because if you can create, you can always get more people on board of, let's say, your organization or your company, like, if it does tailor to what people actually want. So yes, hey, I want to be a part of that, because it's like, if you aren't getting the memberships, what are you doing wrong? You know, are you actually creating something that is actually, is it just about you, or are you just not getting the right message across? Same thing with marketing a product, you know what I mean?
I would not do this if Chris wasn't on here, and then probably Chris won't do this without me on here.
Well, I would write without, if I never knew you, I would still write. But having this conversation with you and Snow makes my writing that much more fun. Like, I mean, it makes it more meaningful for me to be able to have this conversation, because that's what you write for. So I'll give you an example. I just finished The Diary of Anne Frank this week. And she, like the last passage that she wrote, she talked about the two Anns. She was like, I have this outward Anne that everybody sees. They're like, oh, you're just some fun-loving, happy-go-lucky person. But then she's like, in her diary, when she's writing every day, she's a completely different person. And she's like, I have so much more that I want to share with everybody, but I'm stuck in this. Basically, she was stuck in a fucking annex, and she didn't have any meaningful connections to share it with. So she shared it with her diary. And then she died, right? So sadly, like for her, she never got to experience that meaningful connection, which is all that she ever really wanted. But her words and her writing created meaningful connections forever, with there's so many people.
But that's my point, though. It's not her meaningful connections. It's somebody else's meaningful connections. She didn't connect with anyone. She died that she wrote in the diary, and it's only her that's seeing. To me, this is where the chimpanzee comes in. It's like, I don't really care about what other people think and how whatever. Yes, I do want other people to think, but at the same time, I don't, because at the end of the day, it's about how does it make me feel, right? So there is that sounding board, because I'm doing this for other people, because whatever they react, how they react to what I'm doing, give me some kind of a peace of mind or enjoyment, whatever. But if I don't get that, I don't care what he thinks, right? Because the thing is, whatever I'm doing without the other person's acknowledgement,
I don't care, really.
Then the cycle breaks, right? It doesn't bounce back anymore. And so that's what I'm struggling with. Like I said, I don't know the answer.
Yeah, but it's true. Like, I wonder if sometimes I think we can be doing things, but we don't even know why we're doing them.
There's so many things you start off doing. You just try it. You either like it or you don't. You figure, you should try to figure it out.
It can be until years later that you even realize, maybe you never realize, oh yeah, I was doing that because I wanted to be a part of this community, or I was doing it because I was being a chimp and just being a fucking chimp.
There's always external influence that we have all around us from when we were born, right? People say, hey, you should be going to school, you should have good grades, you should be a doctor, you should be an engineer, you should be, whatever your environment happens to advocate at that time. You should be a soldier, you should defend your country. So there's external influence, and what we do is based on those external influence until we have an internal influence that tells us, okay, I like to do this. Our beaver must dab. Ding. So like I said, it's one of those things where we do things because we had to do things. It's like you can't just stop. You're in this race, or this, what you call it, the life quest, whether you like it or not. When the moment you're born, you're on this race, or this hamster wheel, whatever you want to call it. You have to do something, and the thing that's going to fill you that kind of space is whatever is convenient or close to where you are. Like, let's say you're born in a different age, for example, in 1900, you do different things, or you're born in a different country, you do different things, because those environment influence what you decide to do, what you decide to try. It doesn't have, because the thing is, if you don't choose it, they choose it for you. And so that's why people try. But at the same time, if people don't have the meaningful relationship, then their life isn't what they wanted, and they have regrets by the time they're ready to pass on to the next.
But true, then it actually comes down to when you start talking there. I mean, I forget if we've had the conversation about fate, free will. I mean, do we actually even have a choice about what we do? And we're just born in the time, and we're going to end up doing
I don't think you have a choice in that, because you're born with a certain abilities, and you must use those abilities to have less struggles. Because, for example, a beaver, it has this waterproof pelt, right? Then it's well suited for the water. And whatever it does involves water. Same thing with the fish. You can't take a fish out of the water and expect it to climb a tree, because it's not going to be good at it. It's going to struggle. It's going to suffer. So when you are born as a fish, then you are bound to do the things that's related to being a fish. When you're born as a chimpanzee or a monkey, you are bound for things that is monkey would do. When you're born as a human, right, you have the traits of a chimpanzees and the bees, and you can do more than you can compose. Right? But as a human, we are composer. We are compelled to make things. If we don't make things, especially for men, we feel like we're useless. We feel like we're this. I mean, it feels awful for whatever reason. It feels awful for not doing anything.
It is awful.
We are composer, but if you are something else, right, it doesn't matter. It won't affect you at all. So
meaningful work is the most fundamental thing first, because it's got to be meaningful to you. You do it for yourself. You do it to create. You do it for whatever you do it for. That leads to meaningful relationships. It's one then the other. I don't think you can have meaningful relationships that lead to meaningful work. I think it's the other way around. I think you do meaningful work that leads to meaningful relationships.
Where I'm struggling, I don't think is in that order. I think it's like a circle where, like, when you're in a circle, right? Who's in front of you and who's behind you?
I would kind of agree with you. Like, it's a cyclical cycle in a way.
You always create for yourself.
I don't know. I think
the thing is, like I said, if you're in a circle, right? You run in a circle, right? It's the guy in front of you or the guy behind you. If you have two guys running in a circle, Is the guy in front of you or is he behind you? Right. So to me, that's what I'm saying is when you stack up things, you have a priority. And I don't understand that priority. That's why I'm saying is it's not in a priority order where you have chimpanzee first or doing your meaningful work first and then a meaningful relationship later on. I think it's a mesh of the two where it's a different set. It's also the guys behind you.
I mean, that's an interesting way to look at it. Then the center of that wheel has got to be that they're riding around has got to be meaningful work. No, am I wrong? There's got to be an anchor to like anchor that to that, because you don't just jump on a Ferris wheel just to jump on a Ferris wheel.
We're not bound by physical limitations.
I think we would all have to do some drawing here to get this diagram right.
I agree.
The circle and where the meaningful work and meaningful relationships are.
This is the fun of doing this stuff, though, right? It gets your brain thinking, about, what does come first? Is it meaningful work? Is it meaningful relationships? Are we more chimp or are we more bee?
Like I said, meaningful
I
work,
think what it is,
circle. You tell me what comes first or what comes second.
There's two people running in this circle that they're running, and on the back of the one runner, it says meaningful work, but on the back of the other runner, it says meaningful relationships, and they're just constantly running after each other.
I say, okay, the meaningful relationship is in front of me. Or behind me. It's fair.
And he didn't realize he is the meaningful work, and he's running towards the meaningful relationship. And the meaningful relationship doesn't realize it's the meaningful relationship, and it's running towards the meaningful work.
So meaningful work is running toward a meaningful relationship, meaningful relationship running toward a meaningful work. Yeah. And that's the yin yang of this layout, because I don't think it's just like the stacking of one then the other. It's not, I think it's all intertwined in that sense. That's why I'm trying to figure out the split, because the split seems to me like, hey, there's two pieces of the pie and you just split it.
I think the point of the message, though, of this is like we need them both. Like we need to create it, be a part of an ecosystem. Like if you're in an ecosystem that you can't create in, you're in the wrong ecosystem. If you're not in an ecosystem and you're just creating, you're in the wrong ecosystem. Like it needs to come together.
Yes, and I completely agree with that. You need both as the ingredient for this, I guess, optimal existence. If you don't have it, then you don't have it. It's just missing a piece.
Yeah. If we're all brilliant with this knowledge, like what should we, what should we do with this? I know you guys are creating Clubany, but like, do you guys need to get involved in politics to be making the change, or just be allowed speaker to the politicians to be making change?
No, we're nonprofit. We don't go government.
This is three people sitting around and chatting,
For today, like we've done 148 of these. There's 286 reflections to come. We'll keep putting out content,
and then once we have 365, there will be a book. And this is where the wheels can start turning.
Like, what is the most effective way to bring about a change then?
Well, so what
most effective way for me is to change yourself.
I agree for sure. Yeah. And to do it with
yourself. And then if anyone looks at it and say, okay, do I want what he has? Then they'll start to look and they start changing as well.
I think you're being too abstract here. What are you going to do to actually make change? Well, sure, you're going to change yourself, but what are you going to do?
We're doing it right now. Like, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It is being lived right now. Every single day, all these projects are being lived right now. We don't get me wrong. We have a longer term strategy for what we do. But at the end of the day, we can only do what we can do right now today, which is meaningful work, create, share with other people. And that's what we do. So like you're on the call. We have other guests that come on calls. We do meetup groups. We did the quest, right? And we want to go get funding so we can go hire people to come into our Montessori workplace and take this more formal. I just left my job to go start another job where I could go implement all of the Clubany stuff that we talk about with my new teammates, right? Like, and it's going awesome. Like, and I'm having a blast. I have 8 new employees that were basically doing a Clubany light of like 8 new onboardings. And
it's really good. So your new job's really good.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I mean, talk about meaningful work versus not meaningful work. I was in a hive where I was a chimp that was coding every day, basically, now I'm coding. I was on a tranquilizer every day, and now I get to be alive all day long, because before I was only alive in the mornings and at nights when I got to talk to True. Now I get to do it all day. And I'm like, I was telling True today, I had a great fucking day.
Like, I mean, you think about it, Snow. I mean, if we didn't do Clubany, do you think Chris can land this job and do what he does today?
Not at all, actually.
Because this is where we are preparing ourselves, and when an opportunity comes, we can capitalize on that. And right now, he is making a difference. to the people who's working for him, the person that works for him, it is going to, they're either going to like their jobs,
or they're not, and they're going to go find somewhere else.
But the thing is, they're not going to be in that.
I've told them, like, literally, your job is to live your values every single day. We're working on identifying those, and we're learning, we're reading together, we're exploring, we're writing all together, doing all the same stuff that we did for like the quest. And like, I literally have told each one of them individually, like, I don't know where we're going to go with all this stuff, but at the end of the day, like, if this isn't like, you know, what you want, and this isn't a way that you feel that you can express yourself, then we need to have a conversation, and you need to figure out if you can leave, you know, or you should leave, because I don't want to fire you, but like, at the same time, you should know if this isn't meaningful for you.
Is this a sales company, or because this is kind of like you're doing all this inside of an organization that is doing what?
Yeah, it's a digital transformation company kind of thing. So they're a Salesforce implementation partner. Salesforce sells a software and a solution for a large enterprise, connecting your customers together, e-commerce, whatever it may be. And then our company goes and they implement the whole project and bring it into reality.
Okay.
So no, it's a sales role with a digital transformation company, digital consultancy / implementation partner. The reason why I bring it up though is it's not full pure clubbing, but like to your point, like what are we doing, right? Pure clubbing is the Montessori workplace. It's, you know, just get hired, you get paid, and go do whatever you want to go do. And hopefully you can connect with other monkeys creating, and you guys have a shared connection, and then you get to do your little circle, whatever the hell you guys are just talking about, right? You know, within the broader ecosystem where you have the security, the protection, the shared infrastructure, shared values, you know, whatever, all that other stuff, right? Like this is like clubbing light, because I have to tell my team at the same time every day, like, look, this is what we're going to do. But at the end of the day, we have to pay the bills, like to be able to do this right now. So we still have to achieve the goals that we need to go achieve, that the business needs us to achieve. But in the meantime, we're going to do it this way, right? Mm-hmm. So like, yes, I have to be a little bit,
Chimp.
Right. I have to do this right now. That's not what we want to do in the future, but like it is the hybrid, and that's fine. I mean, it's got to be in real world applications.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No,
I think that's the reality of it. It's about trying to bridge the company concept into the workforce, because this is where the real actions are happening.
Yeah.
Because we can isolate ourselves in company all we want, but the people who need them are out there. And I think the needle is moving. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. I just feel like you're too brilliant to not be in front of more people with a loudspeaker or a mic, or be in a position like Chris. I'm sure your family and kids appreciate and absorb the values in your ways of being, and maybe even your neighbors or community.
For me, I do first things first. Yeah, first things first, right? First thing is I need to live the values that I will later on say, this is what I do, right? And this is how I do it. I'm not going to say something that I cannot do. So this is a learning process for me as well, because, you know, in the past 2.5 years, I have become a different person. I've become more of myself than before. I was doing what other people think. I adhered to all the rules. I was a very good student. I was very good whatever, because I was told this is what you're supposed to do. And I did it. I did not like my life. But in the past 2.5 years, if you look at what I do, it's not that much different from what I did before. But to me, as far as my opinions of my life is concerned, life is good. I'm not richer than before. I'm probably poorer than before, you know, and I do more things that is, you know, quote unquote, frivolous in a way, but it fulfills me. So to me, I'm happy with myself. For me, it doesn't matter what comes to me. I take it bird by bird. This is something I've learned through company. It doesn't overwhelm me. My mental state is very stable. Even if the world collapses tomorrow, I have a foundation that I can logically be able to navigate those and be able to console other people. I'm become an anchor to other people. And to me, it starts at home. It starts with me. Then once I have that, then eventually we'll get to when opportunity comes, then you capitalize on it. You can't plan something and expect it to come, because, you know, there's a lot of factors and a lot of variables at play. There's always in flux. So you cannot do that. You say, yes, even if I say, hey, you know, we want to be well known and this and that. For me, I don't think about that.
Yeah, we don't give a shit if anybody ever listens to these things. However, each one of these episodes, each one of these reflections, each one of the core values quests, you know, people that we send on their ways, those are all little seeds that you plant, you know, and be a gardener, not a Moses, right? You know, like figure out what works, what doesn't work, but set the stage for other people to grow and to do what they want to do. Like that's the plan.
Because right now you can ask me about, because yesterday we're talking about what? Not yesterday, but last Thursday we're talking about, was it the elephant and the rider?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jonathan Haidt, the happiness hypothesis.
Because we're talking about how do you talk to your subconscious, right? Your conscious does not understand English. It does not understand what the conscious brains, how it talks, because you can talk to it, say, hey, think about this, think about that. It understands you. And your subconscious does not understand that language. And it's a good thing it does, because if it does, I would die 100 times, 1,000 times, right? Because there's a lot of automatic negative thoughts. Things that comes to your mind about this and that. If your subconscious were to obey your conscious, I would have died 1,000 times before. And a good thing it does. And so we're looking at these reflections and lessons we learn. We know that, hey, the only language that a subconscious can understand is by actions. You act. Let's say you go to some place. Let's say you go to a place you hate, right? A place that you really hate, but you subconsciously go there and have a smile, have a happy face. Eventually, your subconscious will think that you like it, because your actions is telling the subconscious it's habits, right? Let's say you go to shopping with your girlfriend, with your wife, and what I do is I really hated it. I really hate shopping with my wife because my leg hurts. But it's about your mindset. If your mindset is at a certain place and you're happy to go, eventually your habits change. And your subconscious tells you, and it will give you the energy and the motivation to go shop with your wife. And to me, but that's the thing is, if I don't have these foundations, and if I'm go out there and I mentor somebody and there's certain scenario that I can't cover, then I don't know what I can do to guide them. So I need to, I guess, build myself up first, live by example before I can lead it. I think eventually we'll get there, but I'm not in a hurry to get there to where I need to, next year. So I want to be famous and be a speaker or whatever. If it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, I don't care. I don't think about it. And it's same thing for Chris. Man, right now is the joy that I get out of this is able to talk to you guys and get your opinions on these things and give me a better understanding of what kind of lesson I can use for myself.
Well, this is fun. If I didn't enjoy it, then I wouldn't do it. That said, though, any final thoughts as we wrap up for The Righteous Mind and 90% Chimp and 10% B?
No, I like it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that would be a good time.
Awesome. All right. Well, great conversation. And the question we can leave with you guys is, do you have somewhere you can express both your inner B and your chimp at the same time? Because if not, let us know. Yeah, we're happy to talk to you about it. All right. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you guys all tomorrow night.
And good night.